For the past 5 years, Donald John Trump has been a talking point among many, not just because he was a successful businessman who later went into politics and became the president of the United States of America, but because of his past records, because of his words, his rhetorics, and most importantly, his policies as the 45th president of the United States of America. After the recent election loss and the events that happened in America, I went out on the street of Istanbul to meet up with a professor who is an American and a Democrat, to sample his opinion about America, about the election, about the attack at the Capitol Hill, and about the legacy of Donald Trump, and also about the forthcoming inauguration of Joe Biden. My name is Segun. If this is your very first time of watching, this is the Aremo's Family TV. Please do subscribe and make sure you leave your notification bell turned on so you get notified each time we post a new video.
Speaking as a Democrat, as a liberal, the fact that we've had Donald Trump as president for the last 4 years has been an international embarrassment for the United States. Pulling out of the climate change accord is a horrible embarrassment for that which is typically labeled the leader of the free world, and how he dehumanized, disrespectfully talked about China, calling the virus a Chinese virus, and the things that he would say over the last 4 years to defend Ku Klux Klan members in the United States, which are a tiny minority of people. But he would defend these individuals who had outright commitment to separation of people based on ethnicity. It's just sad embarrassment for the United States.
Do you think America can recover from the damage caused by Donald Trump? Because under him, democracy was undermined, not just in America, but across the globe. Just like you said, he withdrew from lots of treaties, he withdrew from Paris Accord, he even threatened and embarrassed a lot of allies and NATO countries. Mm-hmm. So how do you think America can recover from this?
Well, there sounds like there's two questions in there. Will America recover? And then how will America recover? Well, definitely America will recover, because although 48% of the voting population of the United States voted for Trump, 52% is a simple majority. So that means the majority of the US population will continue to be only a simple majority, but a simple majority is enough to get a person 7 to 8 million more votes than Donald Trump. And so that was enough message to the politicians in DC, in Congress, that the change that the Democratic Party has advocated is a welcome change. One, to get back into international relationships, and two, to improve the plight of the less fortunate individuals in the United States.
Based on the recent event that happened at the Capitol Hill, so as an American who has traveled across the globe, most especially you've been to many African countries, and you have seen breakdown of law and order.
Yes.
How would you describe what you saw that day?
Well, I saw two things happening that were shocking. One was the evidence that white privilege is an underlying factor that allowed that to even occur, number one, because if it was people of different ethnicity who were doing that, the police probably would have been shooting at them. But this was a group of people, people with Euro-American heritage, and so the police were very cautious as to how they would handle those people. And they're certainly not cautious when they're dealing with an African American or a Hispanic American who's just simply protesting. So for the first part, I think it's a clear indication of the double standards that exist in America. One that is referred to as white privilege, that individuals who, I don't like that term white, frankly. I don't even like the term black, really, but I can understand the importance of using the term black as a reinforcement for respect for ethnic difference. But we just have different levels of melanin in our skin, and that's what determines the skin tone. So I don't even like that word white, because white is the color of a sheet of paper. It's not the color of this skin. So it's kind of absurd to refer to that privilege that Euro-Americans clearly have is labeled white privilege, because the only white people I've ever met are albinos, people who don't have any skin pigment. And I've met hundreds of them because I've been in so many countries. So the second issue is that the breakdown of respect for the democratic process was shocking to observe. That individuals were being manipulated with the allegation of fake news and illegal voting, so that they actually believed that, rather than facing the fact that it was a free and fair election.
A lot of people share that opinion that in America there are two justice systems, one for the black, one for the whites, just like you have said. Do you think most of these people who have been arrested, do you think they should be pardoned? Or do you think they should face the full wrath of the law? Because obviously they trespassed, and we could hear that a lot of people are already conversing that what they did was not different from what Black Lives Matter movement did. So do you think these people should be sentenced? They should be made to face the full wrath of the law, or they should be pardoned, like some of them are asking for?
Well, absolutely. Those who committed a crime, it's against the law in the United States to defecate inside the Capitol. It is just against the law to urinate in the Capitol. Subsequently, it's easy to see the logic of not pardoning the individuals who did this sort of behavior. Whether we even choose to call it an insurrection or just a bunch of sad, misguided individuals, still, since they broke the law and 5 people ended up dying because of their actions, only one of those people was actually killed by the police. The others were trampled or beat to death by the demonstrators themselves. One police officer was killed by the demonstrators who were carrying Blue Lives Matter, as if that's more important than Black Lives Matter. And so people who were carrying a flag saying, "I support the police," ended up beating a policeman to death. So yes, they should be held accountable, just like if I was in my car back in the States and I broke the speed limit, I would still have to pay for my crime of going over the speed limit. If one drinks while they're driving, they still have to face that criminal charge of driving under the influence of alcohol. And so it's the same thing in this case. No, none of them should get pardoned. The issue is that we're a country based on laws. And so when one goes into the criminal justice system, if they broke a law, then they deserve to be sentenced for their crime. Now, what the severity of the sentence is, that all depends upon a judge. I mean, one of the defenders of Donald Trump, his name was Cruz, they were trying to finally abolish the lynching laws in the Senate. And he voted against that only because he's a senator from the state of Texas, and he knew that some of his constituents wouldn't vote for him next time around. How could anybody be supportive of a law that's been on the books for over 100 years that even though it's against the law to lynch anybody in America, no one has wanted to actually just nullify that law, that over 200-year-old law, just because they don't want to rock the boat with their constituents in the South. That's immoral.
Yeah, thank you for making mention of that, because I know that there were times that some of the senators, I think Cory Booker was trying so much on the Senate floor to see if they can work on that, and they were not successful. Now, since you already mentioned those senators, let's just address them. What do you think should be done to some of these senators who were at the forefront? I mean, like Senator Hurley and
Ted Cruz,
and also in the House, and there are some investigations going on some members who gave probably reconnaissance or something, or
yes,
some of these people around. So what do you think, if at the end of the day, if they are found to have probably broken the law or something, do you think they should be expelled from the House, or what do you think should be done to them?
Well, see, fortunately, we have a country of laws. The United States has a country of laws even before it became a country, when it was following British laws. So it was against the law to dump tea in the Boston Harbor, the Boston Tea Party, you might be familiar with. So even for those colonists to do that, it was illegal. So it is illegal for what some Congress people did to do in defending these rioters and perpetuating the myth that led to the riot. So what are the laws that can be used against those individuals? Well, it would be extremely difficult to, quote, prove, unquote, that Ted Cruz or any other Republican senator caused or was a contributor to the events at the Capitol, but they could be expelled from their job. Now, that's a very slippery slope, because they're not elected by other senators. They're elected by the people in their state. So I think we have to be realistic. I doubt that they will receive anything more than a reprimand, because of the very clear law that they have immunity while they're serving a state. Only individuals from their state can convict them.
Oh, okay. All right. Now let's come back to the elections. Do you believe the election was stolen from Trump? Because, according to the recent polls, over 50 Republicans, 30 independents believe that the election was stolen. So, do you believe it was stolen?
No, of course not. It was, and actually the FBI did Homeland Security did a thorough investigation, and it was considered the most accurate election in modern times. So we're talking about every once in a while there was a mistake made, but it was not 7 million mistakes made. So there was absolutely no intentional defraud that existed that would lead to the other individual, Donald Trump, gaining enough votes due to people voting who shouldn't have voted.
It seems that in America today, we live in two worlds. Because let me give you an example. If you tune to, let's say, CNN, MSNBC, and some of these media outlets, and if you now switch to, let's say, Fox or Newsmax, it's as if you're in a different world entirely. Why is it that there's a particular section of America that thrives on lies or falsehood? I don't understand. Or maybe you can, because you're an American, you know more.
It's shocking. It's shocking, but tragically, the people who own the media outlets like Fox News are more in control of what their reporters say than on CNN or NBC or ABC, so that we have this embarrassing phrase that Trump coined, fake news, that now will be with us for maybe a whole decade before that term gets thrown away. And we've seen around the world where other presidents or leaders or prime ministers have now borrowed Trump's term and called it fake news, even when it's not fake.
Yeah.
So it's a tragedy that some medias are owned by billionaires who want to shape people's minds by supporting untruths.
All right, thank you very much. Because what you said is perfectly true. Because if you look at Nigeria, I don't know if you've heard of the NSAS movement, and
yes,
when some people were gunned down at Kito Gate, and
yes,
our Minister of Information was saying it was fake news when we all saw this very high. So I think because of what Donald Trump is doing, or America, for example, other countries across the globe have seen that as an opportunity to also push their own agenda, and any news that doesn't favor them, they call it fake news.
Right.
So that leads me to the next question. Now, I, for one, have followed Donald Trump for the past 4 years, and I observed that there was no plan for Africa. Okay, if you look at Donald Trump in the last 4 years, he called Africa a shithole country.
Yes.
He also banned some African countries, these Muslim bans. And also, if you check, recently there's an issue with the World Trade Organization. One of African in Nigeria was chosen by all the countries, but America tried to veto it.
Yes. Very embarrassing.
Ngozi Owela. Now, looking at Africa, China is making inroads, Russia is making inroads, and all this French is also in Africa. Now, for the past 4 years, the influence of America is waning gradually in Africa. So, what do you think Biden can do to reconnect back with Africa? Because Donald Trump has done a lot of harm. A lot of aids were cut. A lot of things that were supposed to come to Africa were taken away.
Yes.
Okay? So what do you think Biden can do to amend some of this broken relationship?
Well, it'll be easier than the layperson really realizes, I suppose. We have in the United States the largest military in the world, and one of the aspects of the Department of Defense is to have significant outreach to the continent of Africa. And that outreach offers countries that are interested humanitarian assistance through the Department of Defense. And so that, which is generally referred to as the African Corps, is still going to exist. And so we already have a mechanism for getting reconnected appropriately with Africa, so that there can be more positive influence. And not to say that that China's influence in Africa isn't positive. I, for one, think it is. I think it's people who've never been in the military, the US military, perhaps buy into the media hype about, potential dangers of China. There is no risk of China and the United States ever going to war. Anybody who's served in the US military, an officer, a senior officer in the military, knows that. It's part of when to become a senior officer, you have to take certain military courses. It's called Air Command and Staff College. And so when you go to the War College and take these courses, you learn that China is an ally. Tragically, individuals like Donald Trump have demonized our relationship with China so that it is now misunderstood like it was 50 years ago. But none of it is true. So I am, for one, in favor of China's involvement on the continent of Africa, because they're trying to do some good. They need sources they need markets. And that certainly is going to help at every level people who are living in poverty. So I'm an advocate for fair trade, not for capitalism.
Donald Trump campaigned on MAGA, Make America Great Again. So in your own perspective, in the last 4 years, do you think America was great? And how or what are those greatness that you saw in the last 4 years? Or can you say as a citizen that America was great under Donald Trump?
No, America was not, quote, made great again under Donald Trump. In fact, we're global citizens. It's so misguided, like England has done, like Great Britain has done, and America has done, throwing themselves back into isolationism. We live in a global village. That term that was coined 45 years ago is a truism. Yes, I happen to have been born in the United States of America, so all well and good, but I don't see myself first as an American. I see myself as a sojourner on this planet, an individual who is no better than, no less than every other human being on this planet. So America was not made great by the rhetoric of Donald Trump. In fact, it is sadly played into the hands of people who want to fantasize that there is such a thing as American exceptionalism. And there's not. If there was, we wouldn't have been the last developed nation to give up slavery. It's an embarrassment, all of the shameful things that the United States had done in the last, not only last 200 years, but even as recent as the 1960s.
As an African, and it saddens my heart when I look at the global race for vaccines. The Europeans, they are trying to get as many doses as possible.
Yes.
Americans are threatening all this Pfizer, Moderna, and this other one that is creating vaccine, demanding for more Canadians. There is a race for vaccines, and it seems as if Africa is left for the last. What do you have to say about that? Don't you think that's unfair?
Oh, absolutely. Not only unfair, it's immoral. The people who should be getting the vaccine are people over 65 in every country. That should be the first priority, not as the media makes it sound like, oh, we have to take care of the healthcare providers because they're at risk. Not really. They're not at risk if they're under 65 and aren't cigarette smokers. The thing that brought to the forefront the justification for needing to put all healthcare providers getting in the first wave of individuals vaccinated is because a very prominent physician in New York City died from corona. However, he was a 2-pack-a-day cigarette smoker. So it really wasn't. Yes, he was under 65, but they're making it sound like, healthcare providers are at greater risk because they're exposed to the virus. No, I caught the virus, both the L strain and now the M strain. And I didn't die because 1, I'm a vegetarian, 2, I don't smoke or drink. So the damage to the lungs, the lung tissue, is directly related to if a person has an underlying health condition. And if you don't, then most of us don't die, even though we get the virus. And the biggest risk for death is people over age 65 who happen to be males, because the immune system of the female apparently is able to fight this off better than the male immune system. So you're absolutely right. It is wrong that the people who are getting the vaccine all over the world, and the World Health Organization begged the developed nations to please have compassion. Even the Pope, I'm not Roman Catholic, you're not Roman Catholic. Even the Pope said we have to immune the people who are at greatest risk. That would mean males over 65.
Let's talk about Donald Trump and the church. Yes, that's the last question I'd like to ask you. Why does Donald Trump enjoy so much support from the evangelical wing, knowing that this was a guy who daily before he was banned from Twitter incites hate, is a racist, bullies people, puts children in cages, does things that a Christian should not do?
Not to mention immoral sex activities.
Yes, sir.
Which clearly, if one thinks of the 10 Commandments, it's just not acceptable to have sexual relations outside of marriage. And he clearly had this. He was caught on tape doing this. So his immorality, his unethical behavior is clearly not consistent with Christian principles, not consistent with the Ten Commandments. And so when you ask the question, how come the evangelicals are enamored by him? Two things. The evangelicals want to insist that the world is only 7,000 years old. And he supports them in that. Number two, he supports the right to life claim that the evangelicals have over and above a woman's right to make a choice, a decision about her body. And so those two issues, the abortion issue and the how old is the earth, ignoring science, are the two things that make evangelicals think that he's their man, because he's been vocally supportive of those two issues that are important to them.
So they don't care even if he's a racist, even if he does terrible things.
It's a confusion for a person who went to an evangelical seminary. Seminary is where you get ordained. I went to a Baptist seminary. It's a shocker that people prefer Trump just because of those two issues, yes.
Now, let me ask you this last question, sir. If you check some of the recent videos, those people that entered or those who breached the Capitol Hill, many of them got there and they were praying. Is that consistent of Christians'
principles? Absolutely not. Jesus clearly said, I remember when I was punched in high school and had my nose broken, and I turned the other cheek because Jesus said we have to turn the other cheek. And so what did that guy do? He punched me a second time. Well, of course, I was shocked that the guy who hit me to begin with, when I turned the other cheek, he hit me a second time. Well, I definitely learned a lesson from that everybody doesn't read the New Testament. But the same thing applies with individuals who want to claim to be followers of Jesus. Whether or not one calls Jesus the Son of God, or part of the triune God, or just as a prophet, the issue is that Jesus in the New Testament made very strong statements about loving each other, love other people as if it's myself. Have unconditional respect for others means I can't judge other people. He told the parable of the Pharisee and the Samaritan. He told parables that helped people understand the importance of loving our fellow person on life. And so you're absolutely right. It's totally inconsistent with what the leader of the Christian faith stated that was documented in the Bible. That is, we have to love each other.
I hope you loved the interview with the professor. Let me know in the comment section what you think about some of the questions being asked. What are your own opinion? Also, don't forget to subscribe and make sure you leave your notification bell turned on so you get notified each time we post a new video. Thank you guys for watching. See you in our next video.